Right, hey guys, On Gamer here, back in another video, and I'm doing another collection video. And this will be a update to a video I did many years back, actually. On this exact day, it was the 1st of May in 2021. I did a video showing off all of my Game Boy games, so original, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. I showed them all off in a video, and I figured that, well, today, exactly, 3 years later, I would do an update since I've gotten more stuff since then. The collection hasn't changed too much, to be honest, but I figured that, more stuff has been added, and I don't know, felt like doing an update. Especially considering that I recently, if you saw my last video, I recently just brought a Nintendo GameCube along with the Game Boy Player attachment as well. And because of that, I've been playing a lot more, like Game Boy Advance especially recently. And yeah, I've just been in the mood to do a video showing off all my Game Boy games again. So it's not the biggest collection in the world. As you can see, it's mostly all loose games, but I do have a few complete in-box ones over there. And I don't know if you could see, but they actually are all in box protectors. Yeah, only recently, just about like a month ago or so, I decided to actually buy box protectors for my complete in-box Game Boy games. So yeah, because obviously like the Game Boy boxes are super fragile, because they're cardboard and whatnot. So I figured that, it's best to buy box protectors for them to make sure that, they're always in good shape. And yeah, that one over there doesn't have a box protector, but that's only because the box for that is like super fucking damaged. But yeah. So this is my entire collection, like I said, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. And yeah, and there's not really a whole lot for me to add. I'm just gonna show you what I've got. And then at the end, I'll show you all my Game Boy systems as well, because I have pretty much every Game Boy, with the exception of like the super rare and expensive ones, which are just the Game Boy Light, which only came out in Japan, and the Game Boy Micro, which is like stupidly expensive nowadays. Both of them are, but like, yeah, other than that, I have all the other Game Boys, so the original, the Pocket, the Color, the Advance, and the Advance SP. And of course, I've also got the Game Boy Player as well, which is essentially also a Game Boy as well, that you just plug at the bottom of the GameCube. But yeah, so anyway, let's just get started with it. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on each individual game, because I've got quite a few here, as you can see. But yeah, let's go through what I've got pretty much. So I figured let's start with the complete in-box Game Boy games I have here. This is a mixture of both Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color. I don't have any original Game Boy games complete in box. So yeah, it's not that many. As you can see, it's only 7. All right, but let's start things off with Pac-Man Collection. I remember getting this for my birthday a few years back. I just asked for my mum just to get me a copy of this. I was expecting just to get like a loose cart or something, because obviously like loose cart GBA games are a lot cheaper. But amazingly, my mum actually got me a fully boxed copy of the game. It's got the manual inside and everything. And yeah, I was not expecting that at all. And it's in really good condition as well. Like, considering like how old this is, and it's made out of cardboard and stuff, it is like in immaculate condition. But yeah, this is a collection of 4 different Pac-Man games. Got the original Pac Attack, Pac-Mania, and Pac-Man Arrangement. Good collection, I must say. Pac-Man Arrangement's probably my favorite game on here. That's a really solid version of Pac-Man. And yeah, it's just it's really cool to have. And then I've got several Tony Hawk's complete in box. Of course, Tony Hawk is my favorite game franchise of all time, so of course I had to have these boxed. So the first one here is Tony Hawk Skateboarding, or the original Pro Skater on Game Boy Color. Yeah, this one I don't think I've actually ever played, at least this specific cartridge. I had a loose cart copy before, and then I got rid of it because like the label was like super faded, and the cart was like a weird shade of green for some reason. But yeah, I brought a complete box copy off eBay only like a year ago now. It was pretty cheap for what I remember, probably like £7 or something. But yeah, of course this game's much better on other platforms. The Game Boy Color games, they're okay. They're like 2D sort of side scrollers. Obviously compared to like the game on the PlayStation or N64, whatever, it's like, yeah, it's not even like a comparison, But still really cool to have a box copy of that. And I've also got Pro Skater 2 for the Game Boy Advance. This is probably one of, if not maybe my favorite GBA game. Of course, I love the original Pro Skater 2 on the PS1. It's probably my favorite game on that system. And the Game Boy Advance version, it is really damn good. I mean, it's quite different. Like, the game plays at an isometric angle, as you can see from the screenshots there. But like, compared to the Game Boy Color version, which was a 2D side scroller, this one is a lot more like the console version. And it's really, really damn good. Like, if you love the original Pro Skater 2 on consoles, like, give the GBA version a try. I mean, it does take a little while to get used to because of like the isometric view and like the controls being a lot different because, you know, the Game Boy Advance doesn't have as many buttons as, say, a PlayStation controller, but it is really amazing. I absolutely love the GBA version of this game. Alright, and then I've also got Tony Hawk's Underground 2 for Game Boy Advance. This one is completely battered, as you can see. I didn't even bother getting a box protector for this because it is just already destroyed, but I figured that I would keep it anyway since I've had this for a really, really long time. But yeah, it is just completely damaged, pretty much. The actual loose cart is down here with the rest of my GBA games because I didn't even bother keeping it in that box because it's so like damaged. Next we have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 for the Game Boy Color. This was another one that I got about a year ago. I didn't really like this particular version of Pro Skater 3. Pro Skater 3 is my favorite game of all time, but in my honest opinion, this is probably the worst version of it. It's a lot better on Game Boy Advance than it is on Game Boy Color. But you know, I mean, it's a neat like curiosity, I guess, to have. And I also have a bootleg as well. I have a bootleg copy of Pro Skater 3, which is also inside of this. And it's literally the exact same game, but it's in an original Game Boy like grey cartridge. And for some reason, it has like a different cover on it. And yeah, it's pretty weird. I just found it on eBay for cheap and thought I'd just, you know, get it just for the hell of it. But yeah, and it's even got the original price sticker on it as well. And no, I did not pay that much for this copy. This copy only cost me like a $5 or so. But yeah, at one point in time, it was $24.99. And the last complete in-box Tony Hawk game that I have is American Skateland for GBA. I also own the Nintendo DS version of this as well. Which is a lot better. But this is basically a sort of a port of American Wasteland, but it's kind of also its own different thing. Like it has like a cel-shaded cartoony aesthetic to it. I think it still has like most of the same levels from American Wasteland, if I'm not mistaken. And it is pretty decent. But yeah, but not as good as the DS version, of course. And then the last box Game Boy game I have is this one, Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarder for the Game Boy Color. Now, this game is more or less a snowboarding version of Tony Hawk. Not many people have heard of this game, which is a shame, because it's really, really damn good, especially on the PS2, which was the only console version of this game released. If you play the PS2 version of Pro Skater 3, there's actually a demo of Sean Palmer on there. And I feel like most people, if they even have played Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarder or even know what it is, I feel like most people will play the demo in Pro Skater 3 and then they have the actual full game. But yeah, it is like, honestly, it's amazing on PS2. On Game Boy Color, it's not really that great, to be honest. I played a little bit of it, and it's like the Game Boy Color Tony Hawk games, where it's like a 2D side-scroller. But yeah, I got this complete in box because it was cheap as well. This is the American version, which obviously doesn't matter on the Game Boy, because the Game Boy is region free, but yeah, still really cool. Alright, so that's all my complete in box Game Boy games, and I've also, I guess I'll show this off as well. Yeah, I also have the Game Boy Player startup disc for the GameCube. It's the disc that you obviously need to get the Game Boy Player to work. Really expensive discs nowadays, like these usually go for like 100 to sometimes even 150 on eBay. I got mine for a really good deal, actually. I paid about 63 quid for it. But yeah, this disc is incredibly expensive these days. But yeah, I'm incredibly glad to have that. It's definitely one of the most expensive items I have in my whole collection, like by far. Alright, then last but not least, we have all my loose cart Game Boy games. I'm gonna go through each one of these like real quick. So let's start off with original Game Boy. So starting off, this is actually a bootleg multi-cart. It's just called 33 in 1, but the label is you know, it's got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on it. It has just like a bunch of random Game Boy games on it, like Super Mario Land's on there, Alleyway, TMNT 3, of course, and just some other. It's just a bootleg multi-cart. And I've got Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. Really solid platform. That's the only Mario game I have for the original Game Boy, but it is really, really damn good. Of course, I've got Tetris, probably the most iconic game for the original Game Boy. Like, it's Tetris, what else do you want me to say? Wario Land 2, I have the original Game Boy version of this. There was also a Game Boy Color version, one of the early ones that came in a black cart, which also plays on the original Game Boy. But yeah, this is specifically the original Game Boy version I've got. And then for Game Boy Color, I've got Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, which is a port of the original NES Super Mario Bros. It also includes the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2 as well. And Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 as well, which I don't have the box for. I have the box for the Game Boy Advance version, as well as the box for Pro Skater 1 and 3 on Game Boy Color, but not the box of Tony Hawk 2 for Game Boy Color. So if I find a box on its own for cheap, then I'll definitely grab it. But for now, I just got a loose cart of that. And then Game Boy Advance right here. Got them all in alphabetical order. So first off, we have Doom, of course, a port of the, you know, FPS classic that everyone knows. Doom 2 as well. Really solid versions of those games. Duke Nukem Advance, which is not a port of Duke Nukem 3D. A lot of people think that it is, but it is instead a completely original game made specifically for the GBA. They actually recently re-released this for the first time on the Evercade, because they released a set of 2 Duke Nukem collections at the end of 2023, specifically for the Evercade system, and the second one had Duke Nukem Advance on it. Yeah, but for the longest time, I was basically stuck on the GBA. Alright, and then got Driver 2 Advance. This is a port of the PlayStation game, Driver 2. I do actually already have the original Driver 2 for the PS1 up there. It's a pretty good game. It's basically kind of like one of the first 3D open world sandbox games. It predates GTA 3 by a year. And yeah, and the GBA version is like pretty damn impressive. I want to get Driver 3 on the Game Boy Advance as well, because that one is like just incredible, like visually, for a GBA game. But that one's like really expensive though, unfortunately. It's like 20 quid for the loose cart. And then we've got Grand Theft Auto Advance. This is the game I'm actually playing right now at the moment. I'm actually really enjoying it. It's basically kind of like a throwback to the early GTAs, like GTA 1 and 2 and stuff, like the top-down isometric view games. And yeah, it's its own original thing. It's a prequel to GTA 3, actually. It takes place in Liberty City, but before the events of GTA 3. And it also has like some of the characters from GTA 3 in it as well. And yeah, it's a pretty good game, actually. I'm currently playing it right now. This is the newest game I bought for the Game Boy Advance. I've only had this for about a few weeks now. I bought this on eBay for like a $5. Mario Kart Super Circuit. It's not in the best condition, as you can see. The label's got like some wear and tear on it. But yeah, this was a game I wanted for a really long time, and I only just recently bought it. I haven't played too much of it so far, but I really want to at some point, because like, you know, I love Mario Kart, and I really want to get like all the games. I mean, I pretty much have them all now, except for the first 2, Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64. But from all the ones from Super Circuit onwards, like I have them all. Yeah, and that was a GBA game I wanted for a very, very, very long time. All right, then we have Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarder again. This is the Game Boy Advance version. This is a lot better than the Game Boy Color one, but still not as good as the PS2 version. It's basically the same as the GBA Tony Hawk's, like the isometric view and stuff. And it is pretty good, actually. Next we have Smash and Drive, which is a racing game by Namco. I think this was originally an arcade game. This game I remember buying mainly because like how visually impressive it was for the GBA. This is one of the few GBA games that's like fully in 3D, like fully 3D polygons and stuff. And but the first time I saw it, it honestly like blew my mind. Like I had no idea like the GBA could even, you know, handle a game like this. Like at times it even looks like a PS1 game or something. Like it's visually like really impressive for GBA. I mean, like the frame rate's really crap in it, to be honest. I was playing this the other day on the Game Boy Player. But yeah, it's a fun little racing game for the Game Boy Advance. But yeah, I mainly bought it just for like the visual spectacle of it, because it is really like impressive that the GBA could, you know, handle a game like this. And then we got Spider-Man Mysterious Menace, 2D platformer that was exclusive to GBA. I believe it's actually part of the same series as Spider-Man 2000 and Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, like the early 3D Spider-Mans for the PS1. Yeah, I think it's part of that same series, and it's a really good game, actually. And I've got a multi-cart here, Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2. This is both games based on the first 2 films in one cartridge. Also 2D platformers, and also pretty good as well. I've got all 3 Sonic Advance games here. The first one there, Sonic Advance 1, Sonic Advance 2, and Sonic Advance 3. My favourite of these is probably Sonic Advance 2. But they're all really good games. They're all like a throwback to the, like, you know, original Genesis and Mega Drive era Sonic games. And yeah, and I really wish that they would just like re-release these games already, because these games are still stuck on the GBA pretty much. Hopefully one of these days they release like a Sonic handheld collection or something that has, you know, all 3 Sonic Advance, Sonic Battle maybe for GBA as well, if they wanted to. The Sonic Rush games, Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, if any of you even know what that is. Because, yeah, I just want to see these games come back, because the Sonic Advance games are really freaking damn good. And we've got Super Mario Advance 2, Super Mario World, which is obviously just a port of the SNES game, Super Mario World. A pretty decent one as well. This one here is all fucked up looking, but this is actually Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. which is a 2D side scroller, a pretty mid one to be honest. I don't know why I decided to rip the label up. I did for some reason, probably because I didn't like the game when I was younger, so I don't know, decided to destroy it. But yeah, that's Star Wars Episode 2. Then we have Tekken Advance, a GBA exclusive Tekken game, loosely based on Tekken 3. I think it has like the same character roster as Tekken 3. And it's okay from what I remember. But obviously not as good as the console Tekkens. And then the rest of these are all the other Tony Hawks for Game Boy Advance. So we've got Pro Skater 3, Pro Skater 4, Underground, Underground 2, and Downhill Jam. There's not a whole lot to say about all these games like individually, because all these are pretty much the same for the most part. Like they're isometric and they're all just like they are based off, of course, their original console versions, but like they all like play the same and stuff. But however, Downhill Jam, this one's actually quite different. This one's actually in 3D, but it's like really, really basic 3D. It's like complete flash shade polygons. It looks like a Super FX game on a Super Nintendo or something. And yeah, and this one's actually pretty decent. It's based off that one spin-off, which was like a downhill racing spin-off of Tony Hawk. And yeah, and I must say, it's pretty decent on GBA, despite the graphics being pretty bad, especially for a 2006 handheld game. But yeah, I've got all the Tony Hawks for Game Boy Advance, actually. And the last game here is Wolfenstein 3D, which is simply just a port of the original DOS game. And that's about it, really. It doesn't run as well as the original version, but yeah, it's just Wolfenstein 3D on GBA. And then I've also got a few manuals here, like Driver 2 Advance, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. I don't have the boxes for any of these games, but I do have the manuals, so I thought I'd just show them off here as well. And yeah, that's it. That is my entire Game Boy game collection, pretty much. I'll quickly show you the actual Game Boys I have, as well as the GameCube with the Game Boy player. So in here is where I keep all my handhelds. So I do apologize for the lighting, it is quite dark in here, but yeah, those are all my Game Boy handhelds. So I've got the original, the Pocket, the Color, the Advance, and the Advance SP. That GBA SP over there is actually a Zelda edition. I don't know if you can see, but it has like the Triforce on the top there. And here are all my Nintendo DSs as well. I've got the original Fat Model DS, a Zelda-themed DS Lite, Blue DSi, that was my original I've had ever since I was a kid. There's a PSP 3000 over there, my Nintendo 2DS, and also the Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary Game & Watch, which is still in the box. So yes, those are all my handhelds. And then down here we have my GameCube, which I've only had for like a week now. So yeah, I bought this off eBay, got a black GameCube, and got the Game Boy player down there as well. Here's a controller, and inside I've actually got Sonic Adventure 2 Battle in there, which that was the game I was playing last night actually. And yeah, I've been playing a lot of Game Boy games on it recently. This is pretty much how I'm going to play all my Game Boy games from now on, actually, just on the TV. So yeah, anyway, that was it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and peace. And I shall see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care now.